Hey, you guys, it's movie retrospective time. This time around, we are doing a movie. I had actually never heard of this movie, even though it was from the early 80s. This was sent to us by one of our listeners, Rob, of Out of Time Pictures.
Yeah, Rob Levinson. He's like a director.
Yeah. And
producer.
interestingly, it's like we kind of always talk about movies, and I thought that I had kind of seen everything from this era just because I watched so much cable and shit like that, but I had actually never heard of this movie, even though it was written and directed by the famous Michael Crichton.
Yeah, he did a lot of good ones that I liked. He did Westworld and Demon Seed, one of my favorites.
Andromeda Strain.
Bunch of them.
Coma.
Although I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember really liking it.
I had seen this one, but
you had kind of forgotten about it?
Well, I was convinced. I was kind of confused about what year it was I saw it in. You see, I was watching this, and I was going, I remember this one. This is the one that had Gene Simmons running around shooting people with a light gun that would mesmerize you.
Yeah.
And somehow...
You were half right.
somehow I conflated Runaway, which is also a Michael
Crichton.
With Tom
Selleck, yeah.
Right, yeah. And that one had Gene Simmons running around shooting people with a damn pistol that fired guided missiles.
Yeah, the light gun was from this movie.
The light gun was from this movie, but I never did forget that light gun and like the way they edited those scenes.
Yeah.
Because in the day, that was a futuristic concept.
Michael Crichton, I have to say, obviously he's best known as a novelist, but he directed a lot of movies as well. I feel like a constant theme that kind of runs underneath his books, I mean, they're mostly like science fiction thriller type things. It's always kind of like science run amok type of thing.
Yeah.
But I do feel like a lot of his stuff is really
it's close.
Prophetic.
Yeah. It always happens.
Yeah.
What the story is about basically using computers to scan models, and then they can CGI them into commercials without having to reshoot it. And then they can judge people's responses to the videos and make the perfectly manipulative, emotionally manipulative commercial.
Yeah.
We have that today. It's called CGI and it's called algorithms and
3D modeling.
3D modeling, the same thing.
Pretty much all of that stuff, and like even like the retinal scanning and all that kind of stuff, that is very commonplace nowadays.
Yeah, and but it was funny because they're trying to make a movie about it with a bunch of corporate power involved with it, trying to put kind of a sinister spin on something that's basically kind of like a movie about laptops. My God, we all have laptops.
Well, he was saying, because we watched the movie once through, and then because I had never seen it, you saw it a long time ago, and then we watched it through with Michael Crichton's commentary. So he was kind of talking. Now, I think this was the first movie that he directed after Westworld. Yeah. So this one, out of all his movies, this seems the closest to what actually ended up happening. I mean, this seems the most believable. Obviously, it came out in 1981, so the technology is very dated. Like, all the computers are like big fucking room-sized shit, and like all the robots look like little squares that go along tracks and stuff.
Although Demon Seed could now happen at any moment. It
True.
Singularity with computer consciousness, and then it says,
true.
fuck it, I'm going to use nanites to impregnate a woman so I can download my consciousness into a human being instead of being trapped inside this computer. I mean, they're talking about that kind of stuff now.
But I'm kind of saying that Looker, this movie,
this one actually happened.
This has actually kind of happened because now they can. I mean, obviously, like I said, the technology they used at the time, like for scanning the models and stuff like that, they just had to use like. He's like, we just had to use this something that looked cool because you couldn't actually do it at the time. With just these kind of like light little crosses and stuff. Like, it was kind of like taking in all her form and then mapping it.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of the movie's kind of like a murder mystery. That's kind of like a cop flick.
Yeah, because
what it's like.
Because, like I said, I had not heard of this movie. Like I said, obviously I heard of Michael Crichton. I've seen most of his other movies, but I had never heard of this one. Somehow it kind of went under my radar. And so I didn't have any idea what it was about. I didn't read the blurb on the back or anything like that because I just, like I said, I kind of like to go into stuff like cold without knowing. So, like you said, the very first part of this, it's very intriguing because it's set up like a mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, basically what you have, you have a thing at the beginning where it's just like this really cheesy ass commercial. I think it's for that fucking, the one for the perfume.
Yeah.
Right, called Ravish, I think it's
Some
called.
stupid
and
shit.
it's like telling you to put it between your toes and stuff like that. It's like, it's like cheesy, but it's kind of like a real commercial from that time.
Yeah.
It's really not that weird.
The whole movie is a product of its age. It's being futuristic. I think this is what, 84? 81. Okay. Well, this movie is just 81 as fuck.
It is, yeah.
But it's kind of actually futuristic for 81. It looks a little bit more like 84, 85 in terms of decor.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit ahead of the curve. But it will 80s the fuck out of you. Just you know, if you grew up during this era, you'll recognize furniture and you'll recognize like wallpaper motif patterns.
Holy crap!
I remember that.
That the model's apartment at the beginning, like the super Pepto one. It's like so pink and like there's mirrors everywhere.
Pink mirrors and chrome.
Everything is like just chrome and like pastel colors. And I was sitting there thinking, man, it's like that part of the 80s I really hated, and I even hated it at the time because everything looked very sterile and very corporate.
If you're into like
all those pastel like pink and gray and.
If you're into like dead mall videos and like urban exploration channels where they're going into like abandoned hotels from a long time ago, you'll see that this is what those hotels and what those houses
what they looked like
when they were new.
Yeah,
because it's creepy to see that shit now in abandoned hotels and stuff. You're like, oh, it's kind of creepy.
Got mold growing
all over it. But you remember how kind of low quality everything was in terms of construction. It was almost like something out of the Soviet Union, where
even
it was like
high-end stuff was
even
like
high-end
really kind
shit
of
was cheap.
And it even kind of looks cheap in retrospect. I guess you didn't really think about it at the time.
No.
But like I said, this is kind of like, it's set up like a murder mystery, because basically what happens after this little like weird like fragrance commercial at the beginning is that there's this plastic surgeon who's played by Albert Finney, who is actually like a big deal actor. He was especially like known as a theater actor. But he was in tons of other movies as well, very well respected. He's in this as a plastic surgeon named Dr. Roberts, and he's noticed that this handful of women who are models have been coming into his office wanting plastic surgery, but they have a list that's very, very specific. That it's like, you know, I need my nose like trimmed by 2 millimeters, and I need my boobs like done by this. Yeah. So they have this like really, and he's like sitting there going, you're already good looking, so what's the deal? Like, what good is that going to do?
Yeah. These women, man, they bring back the 80s as fuck to me too as a kid. You know what I mean? I just remember when women, they were just skinny as shit.
That first model was for sure.
They were all tall and skinny.
Yeah.
And they looked okay from the front. You turn around the back, man, they were flat as a board. They're fucking no booty, just like straight up and down with like a slit going up the top for a crack. And then they just coke whore type looking women. You know?
First woman,
bad hair.
Yeah.
Only the one from the Partridge Family was really cute.
Susan Day is in
yeah, she's the only one that would be by today's standards to be considered cute.
Yeah.
The rest of them were. I just forgot how extreme. Yeah, that model look was. And Susan Day was not good looking.
Susan Day was thin, but not like so thin. But because the first model that's in this, she's not actually an actress. I think she was just like a Playboy model.
Yeah.
And she's kind of the first one to get killed or whatever. And they have like scenes of her like walking through her apartment, and she's really tall. I mean, she looks really tall. I don't know if that's just the shoes, but she looks like she's at least 5'11", and she is.
Maybe
very
80 pounds.
Thin. Very
80,
thin.
90. And I just forgot how extreme models looked back then.
Like, I was taken aback at how thin she was.
And really, they had a bunch of them, and I guess they were good-looking women in the context, by the standards of the 80s, of the context of the time. They all had that same real super skinny, just kind of, there was just something about them. They were not sexual.
And sometimes the fashions back then didn't help too, especially like the lingerie, because remember those underwear that were like way
big old like a walking V. Like
they were supposed to, like in theory, they were supposed to make your legs look longer. I think that's why they did that, but that was not what happened.
Just made your ass look like about 2 feet tall, 5 feet tall. But it made your ass look real tall.
Like your ass went all the way up to your back.
Yeah, big old tall ass, big old tall narrow flat ass. It didn't. The shit didn't work back then.
It really didn't, and it's
I don't know who was thinking about. I don't know who was thinking that looked good.
Well, I don't know, but like I said, that was just kind of the style because
I
guess
the '70s looked better. They had better looking '70s fashion.
Because in the '70s, like everything was kind of like rested on your hips.
Yeah, they had hip huggers. They had
which looks better.
Bell bottoms with the tight around the hips and everything.
And then it's big on the legs,
late '60s.
Which actually does make your thighs look smaller.
Yeah.
Well, because it balances, it makes you look more balanced.
The woman look a little more shapely, you know what I mean? But late 60s and 70s fashion was better.
I think so,
than a lot of the 80s stuff. I didn't realize that at the time.
The 80s was, it was just so, like, a lot of it was box-like.
It was very Soviet.
And it was very, like, you know what I mean? It had, like, these really, like, dramatic angles. Yeah. Like I said, the underwear, like, went, like, big V.
Huge shoulder pads.
There was huge shoulder pads that made, like, I couldn't wear that because I have wide shoulders anyway. And it's like, so I just looked like a big
poofy
fucking
hair.
Football player walking down the fucking
weird
street.
Hair.
Yeah.
Everything like a helmet head.
We used so much hairspray in the fucking 80s, you guys.
Only the punk rockers looked good.
My hair wasn't that big. I did, like, the spiky bangs.
Yeah.
But I had, like, half my head shaved and stuff like that. So
only punk rockers looked good in the 80s.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, all the kind of, like, corporate 80s kind of... Because I hated all those, like, pastel colors and everything was just, like, so boxy.
But the movie was good, though. It's the edit is kind of slow by today's standards. And even the director himself...
He pointed that out.
He said that it was just a sign... It was just the way where it was in the times, and it was. I didn't notice it back then. People took their time watching the movies, like you're really seeing some shit.
Yeah.
But you see it now, and what impressed us back then just doesn't impress people now.
Yeah.
So you don't dwell on it, and the edit's a lot faster.
He did make a point that there's one particular scene where the doctor, Larry Roberts, who's played by Albert Finney, and Cindy, who's one of the models, because I didn't mention it before, but the models that have been coming in, like, asking for these really specific, like, fixes, they start ending up dead. They usually, like, fall out of windows and stuff like that. Oh, and I have to note here, this movie has one of the best stunts I have ever seen in any movie ever.
This chick falls out of
Holy shit.
Chick falls out of a window, probably 5 stories up, and lands on her back on the roof of the car, and it smashes that roof down in, and her legs and her knees fly up over her, behind her ears. I mean, it's almost kind of like she's going down on herself for a second. Just bam! It folds her ass in half, and then
in slow
motion. And then she goes flying up off the car and just lands on the ground. And that was a real stunt. Woman really did that.
In lingerie. She's wearing like a little, like a teddy or something like that.
And the top of that car just explodes. All the glass busts out the side.
I saw that and I was like...
Yeah, it looks like it killed her.
Is that woman okay?
That was like back in the day. Shit.
And I watched I watched a couple other reviews of this. There's not a lot because I guess this isn't kind of an obscure movie. But one of the guys said that he said the same thing. He's like, oh my God, that was the most amazing stunt ever. And he tried to find out who that stunt woman was, but he couldn't find out who it was. But the other review I saw that called that where her legs went up like that, they called it vagina taco.
Yeah, vagina taco, exactly what happened. She just folded her right up.
It's amazing. I've never seen anything like that.
That stunt is as impressive as the stunt at a Road Warrior where the guy comes off the motorcycle and his legs clip the railing of the damn thing and he flips over.
This is another one like that. And like I said, the fact that it's just like in the middle of the frame and they show it in slow motion.
Yeah, in her damn near see-through nightgown.
Yeah, she's just wearing a little short nightgown and little panties. Yeah. And then she just goes bang on the top. I was like, holy crap.
And it was real.
That woman got killed.
And you could tell it was a real person, that was not a dummy. You could see all the jiggle. Even though she was skinny too.
That's the thing. It's
crumpled her ass up on top of that car. It looked like it killed her.
It really did. Yeah. I was like, how did she not break every fucking bone in her body? I mean, maybe I don't know. I was sitting there thinking, could they have like softened the car somehow? But it didn't look like it.
No, they just had it. They just knew that the roof.
She knows how to fall.
They knew that the roof of a car could absorb quite a bit of impact.
Well, clearly.
And I don't know if she fell 5 stories.
No, I doubt it. But
the way they shot it, it looked like she fell.
Like she did.
But when they showed the impact, she must have probably at least fallen.
She must have fallen from quite a height. Because,
probably 20 feet, probably.
I mean, the way it looked real. It looked like somebody falling.
Exploded all the glass out of the window.
And I was just like, my mouth fell open.
She had to have jumped off, like 20-something feet. Because it busted all the glass out.
Whoever you are, lady, holy crap.
was a good
I
one.
salute you.
It was a good
because that was badass. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, so all the models are showing up dead, and they're trying to frame the
plastic
surgeon that's
Dr.
working
Roberts.
on them, and it's weird how they kind of show it. You know, you don't know exactly how they're being killed, but then they show it later on, and during another homicide, there's a dude with this damn black plastic light gun. It looks like something we used to play laser tag with.
Yeah.
And he points it at her and pulls the trigger, and it uses a pulsing light that somehow fucks up your nervous system and it knocks you out. You just stand there like a zombie for a minute or so until you recover. And during that time, they can do all kinds of stuff to you.
Yeah, because it
set you up and get ready to push you out a window, that kind of stuff.
Like, I'm not really sure how long it worked, because when they did it to Albert Finney's character, like later in the movie, like they flashed him with the light gun a couple times, and then he was like standing there and like 2 hours had gone by.
Yeah.
So it makes you lose track of time. I don't know if it's like in a consistent manner.
I think it was only a few minutes, but I think that dude was there with him zapping it over and over
just
again.
Just for shits and giggles.
Well, when he started to come to, I think he would zap him.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of keeping him unconscious with it, and that's like one of the what do you call it? One of the gimmicks of this movie is this damn light gun.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first saw it, the effect is pretty good for the time.
Yeah, I mean, for 1981,
right.
Like I said, it's dated, obviously, but...
Yeah, and then whenever they use it, it kind of shows, and it changes hand. The good guy gets it for a while, and... Well, actually, he gets one of them, because they attack... There was more than one of them, because I think the bad guys came after him.
I think they all had one.
Yeah,
and they're going around, like, flashing in people's faces.
Yeah, and, like, weird shit would happen, like, you would forget that if they were behind you in a car and they shot at you, that it would reflect off the rearview mirror and get you.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of cool things.
That's like one of the funniest things. And from listening to Michael Crichton talk, I will say that it's like this movie, it's like played pretty generally. James Coburn is in this too, by the way. He plays like the evil bad guy, like the head of the corporation or whatever, which is called Digital Matrix. But I think that he meant some of it to be satirical, because some of the stuff is kind of funny, like, and I think it was meant to be funny, like especially like the car chase between the doctor and the goons, and they're like shooting the light guns at each other. It's just like
there's no recoil or anything, there's no sound. Yeah,
so it's just like they're and it's just like really funny. And then like I guess, and they're all trying to like cover their eyes so the light doesn't get in there. And then like Albert Finney, it gets him, and then they just cut to his car like in a fountain.
Yeah, he somehow made it into a fountain.
He somehow like ramped into a fountain, even though there's no ramp or anything.
Yeah.
And it's like when we were watching the director commentary, because I said, well, the cops are there and like the car is in the fountain, and you can see like in the grass there's tire tracks. But Michael Crichton was like, he's like, when I watch this movie now, he's like, there's really no way that car could have got into that fountain. He's like, oh well, fuck. He basically said, fuck it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't think anybody really noticed.
So nobody noticed. I noticed it immediately. I said, how'd that car get in?
I did too, but I think people he meant people back then didn't really notice.
Yeah. There's no way to ramp over that damn ledge.
Yeah, because there was nothing there. It was just like grass, like a park, and then there was like a sidewalk at a fountain.
Would have crumpled that car up.
Yeah, because the car was just like sitting perfectly like in this fountain. So there's like kind of some... But the reason that I'm saying that some of it I think was meant to be funny or meant to be satirical is the last sequence where, because like I said, essentially what this Digital Matrix company is doing is they're making 3D renderings of people so they don't have to so they can have them perfect. Because I think one of the things was that, they wanted the models to have these particular proportions, and that's why all these girls were coming into the plastic surgeon to get all this stuff fixed. But they said that when we did the tests on them, it's like while they were standing still, their ratings were very high. But then when they started moving around, people didn't like it so much. Yeah. So it's like they decided to just take the proportions and then just animate them themselves so they could do whatever. So they have this big studio that has all these different sets on it for different commercials. There's a kitchen set and a bedroom set and shit like that.
Yeah, the way they imagined CG happening is not the way it really went down. But you could tell the way that they directed this setup. It's black with all these damn illuminated lines, like green lines.
Yeah, like a grid.
You can see that Star Trek and Next Generation ripped that off for the holodeck.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the holodeck in a way. Cross between the holodeck and a TV station.
Yeah, because the sets move around,
and they can
on wheels or something.
They can actually film in there and broadcast it live, and everybody on television sees the real images of like the furniture, and then like the CGI people superimposed over
it.
And then if somebody runs through the set, you see them too.
Yeah.
Which that plays into the movie.
So that's like the last sequence of the movie. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think that was meant to be comedic, obviously, because there's stuff like, one of the goons get killed and he's like in the middle of like the dining room table. And then there's like a commercial where there's like all these little kids, like it's for cereal or something like that. There's like a dead body in the middle of the table.
And all the shareholders are watching the demonstration, of what the technology can do. It's a very corporate movie. The tone to me was kind of like a cross between RoboCop 1 and Halloween 3. You know how...
that's pretty accurate. I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, because remember how in Halloween 3, he's doing his own investigation into what the hell's going on at the Silver Shamrock company?
Yeah, this is kind of like that.
It's kind of like that, but it's a lot more, I wouldn't say believable, but a lot higher budget.
Yeah.
Imagine it being kind of like happening in like Demon Seed, or at the level of Demon Seed or Westworld, or what else did he do? It's like that, but it kind of reminds me of the tone of the movie. Kind of reminds me of a cleaned up version of Halloween 3.
I see. Yeah,
which is one of my favorite movies.
It's not really a horror movie. It's more, I would call it a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah.
Because it's more like a mystery, and then like it goes off in this weird sci-fi direction. I was listening to this podcast earlier, and it's these 3 guys. I think it's called Film Illiterates, and they were talking about this movie, and they talked about it at length for like an hour or something like that. And the one guy that was on there, like one of them really didn't like it. He just thought it was dumb and silly and everything. But the other guy was really into Michael Crichton, and he'd read like all his books, and he loved this movie. And he said that he's like, this is the most Michael Crichton-y of all of it. He's like, this is the most like a Michael Crichton book. Like the way that his books are written, this is the most like that.
I think it was kind of an important movie because you can see some of the ideas that were lifted out of this and used in other series.
And the sad thing, too, is that this movie was actually the first movie to use 3D shading with a computer, and also the first to try to make a realistic 3D computer-generated character. I feel like Tron gets all the accolades for that, but this actually came out a few months before Tron. But I guess because this movie was not successful, it was critically panned, and I don't even feel like most audiences bothered with it.
It has some problems. First of all,
it does.
The edit's too slow. The story isn't very movieable. The leading man isn't a real convincing action hero, if you ask me.
Yeah, well...
and there should have been more action in it. Do you know who would have been better in this movie at that time?
Who's that?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't know.
And they goofed.
He doesn't seem like a plastic surgeon.
Well, you had to go over the top kind of goofiness, Get out, that kind of stuff,
I mean,
the light gun, and he gets hit with the light gun and he's blinking,
Okay, now that would have been fun.
Yeah,
Somebody needs to fucking
you
do
it. You should have done it kind of the tone with the tone of like the one where he goes to Mars. Shit. Yeah. Man, I know all fucking.
Yeah. We know what you're talking about.
We know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Recall. Total Recall. Yeah. Should have had like the tone of Total Recall.
Yeah, because...
with more action stuff in
this
it.
This is, I mean, like I said, it's not overtly funny. I think some of the comedy comes from it just being so dated, because, like, you know what I mean? It's like they're trying to get into what is called the Looker Lab, because, like, the Looker is a, not only talking about like the women being good looking, but it's also like an acronym for something that I can't remember. Like, what is it? Light ocular oriented kinetic emotive responses. That's right. Yeah. That's what it's a thing for. Yeah. So I had that written down over there. But yeah, so that's what it's for. So it's like they're trying to get into the lab, and it's like they stole a key card from somebody that works in this place. But the key card won't work on the Looker Lab because I guess that's like the super duper secret lab. But somehow they get in there because they hitch a ride on a janitor robot, which is essentially just a big square, like a cube thing on a track that just has like two little arms that pop out the side and like empty trash into itself.
Yeah.
So they just like sit on it because that little janitor is going into the looker lab, and they're like, "Oh, handy." And I'm like, "Well, that's not very good security."
That was 80s
digital matrix.
That was a high tech. That was a high tech 80s robot though, and that's kind of what they look like in warehouses today. Basically.
Yeah. It looks kind of like little maybe Star Wars robots, those little square ones with like little wheels on them and shit. But they didn't have a face.
Kind of like that.
It was just like a little box.
I remember I had one of those little big tracks. You remember Big Track? It was a six-wheeled vehicle with a bunch of keypad on the back, and you could program it to run around and shoot lasers and shit.
Oh, shit, I remember that. Yeah. I don't think we had.
That's what level the robots were at at this time.
Which, like you said, you can't shit on it for that, because it's like that's what people thought robots would be like, I guess, in the 80s, and it's just like, let's have this big, huge robot that goes around the whole building on a track and just like dumps trash because it's too much trouble for a person to do it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that people have complained about, and I didn't really notice this until I heard other people talking about it. There are actually two cuts of this movie. The cut that's on the disc that we have is the theatrical cut, but there was also a TV cut that was longer, and it had like more scenes of exposition. Now, in the TV cut, there's actually a scene explaining why Digital Matrix started murdering these models. Because in the movie,
it never really does
they
it?
Don't explain it. Right. Now, see, in the movie, I was just thinking...
they need them, they didn't want to pay
They didn't need them, and they didn't want to pay them. Because the whole thing was, it's like, oh, well, they were talking to Susan Day, and they were like, well, once we scan your body and we can use you in all these commercials and stuff, and then you don't have to do anything else, but we'll pay you $200,000 a year, which, holy shit, in 1981, that was a fuck ton of money.
Right.
And she's like, well, that seems really weird that it's like you're going to pay me for doing nothing. And it's like, yeah, but we're paying you for who you are. We're using your image, so we're just going to, but you don't have to do anything else. So I was kind of thinking that
was the motive.
Well, yeah, that they were just like, well, they'll tell you that, they'll scan you, and then they'll just have you killed so they don't have to pay you. So what was the real
motive?
Well, it was kind of that. The guy was explaining, like one of the goons was explaining that it was it was akin to like shredding documents. I guess so, like other corporate. So there wasn't like, if there was corporate espionage, like they couldn't figure it out, or like a model couldn't go to, I don't know.
A model couldn't go sell her image to somebody else,
and then there'd be like competition or something. Yeah. So I think it was something like that. I mean, I just assumed that they didn't want to pay the girl. It's like, so once they got your image, why the fuck would they need you anymore?
Yeah, that's kind of poorly conceived, because the Disney Corporation, if you work for them, they own your image forever.
Yeah,
so they don't have to do that.
It would be very easy to like put in a contract.
It's in the contract, right?
And that it would be, you'd think it would be much safer than like randomly knocking off people with
and
like
models are disposable. They've always been
with
disposable.
like a highly classified light gun, which can scramble your brain and make you lose several hours at a time, kind of like an alien weapon.
It's just kind of funny. The models are disposable. They kind of come and go. They're just flavor of the week, so they don't really want your image for very long.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. This movie, I think it was kind of ahead of its time in the way it was a satire of advertising, because there's also an aspect of like where they have because I think the light gun is like a variation of the shit that they're putting into the 3D model characters for the commercials that are like making you buy stuff. Like it hypnotizes
like subliminal messages.
Yeah, like subliminal messaging. Like it's hypnotizing you. Yeah. So they're kind of satirizing, advertising how ubiquitous it was becoming, like even in 1981.
Oh, I got to give a shout out to the gun guys who are listening. There's only one cool gun makes an appearance, a real gun. Most of the time it's just revolvers and shit. Like Smith & Wesson revolvers. But the corporate hitman shows up with a Cobra M11-9 submachine gun that suppressed. It's got a suppressor on the front of it, and it had a side folding stock, which I'd never seen before. But that fucker looked real shootable. If you guys know what I'm talking about, it looked real shootable. But he's hunting down He's in running through the corporate offices with that MAC-10.
Was that the big meat-headed guy with the porn stash?
I think it was. I think
that guy was a football player.
That's right. It was him, the football player guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you got this movie confused with the one that had Tom Selleck in it, because that guy kind of looks like Tom Selleck, except like a big.
I mashed this one and Runaway together.
I don't think I've seen Runaway either.
Runaway, we're gonna get that one too. Runaway. I think Rob said he'll send me that one.
Oh, okay.
I'll review that one too. Runaway was Tom Selleck playing a cop who was kind of like a Blade Runner. His job was to destroy malfunctioning robots.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah, and he kind of had armor and stuff, and fucking ray gun, and the bad guy in that is Gene Simmons from Kiss. And he's got this damn pistol that shoots guided missiles. Little guided missiles are probably about 3 inches long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I kind of confused that movie with this one.
I think I've seen that, but I didn't remember Gene Simmons being in it.
Yeah, Gene Simmons. If I remember correctly, I mean, you might correct me. Somebody in the audience might correct me.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that.
I'm pretty sure it was Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking about it, at the time. Like, oh man, got Gene Simmons in there, But for some reason, I thought Gene Simmons was running around with that light gun.
Yeah, you got the two movies confused.
Got the two confused.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's easy to see how that happened because you probably saw them right about the same time. Because when did Runaway come out? 84, 85?
Yeah, but
like
I think I saw this movie in about 85 or 86.
Yeah.
And then Runaway probably right after it.
Because it was probably on cable or on TV or something.
VHS probably.
And they're both, and they're both by the same writer-director, and you probably wouldn't have known that, but like the style is so similar,
made
probably
some kind of connection with
that you would have made a connection.
Might have been recommended to me by friends who knew that it was the same director, and we might have watched them close together. Might have watched them in the same night.
Yeah.
On VHS. But as soon as I saw that picture of Runaways of Tom Selleck, and then. Yeah, it's a picture of Gene Simmons with that gun. And I remember that gun immediately. It had the magazine up in front of it. The big old long magazine, like a rifle mag.
Yeah.
Like a little short rifle mag up in front of the trigger guard. And it shot out some kind of damn heat-seeking missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it vaguely. I'd have to go back and see it again, though.
I was going to say, I wanted to, when we were listening to the director's commentary, one of the anecdotes that he had about the filming of this movie just amused the shit out of me. It was one where there's one scene in it where Susan Day I think this is before they do the 3D model of her, and they're putting her in a commercial and they're making her like fall down on the sand, like they're playing beach volleyball or some kind of shit. And like she's just not falling right, and it's like, the people looking at the commercial are like not responding well because it's like, look, that angle is just wrong and blah blah blah. So they were filming this scene out on the beach. And Michael Crichton says somebody on the crew, I don't remember who it was, one of the cameramen or something like that, he said he had a dog. I think he said it was a pit bull or a Rottweiler or something like that. And the dog's name was Pig. Mm. And he said, so all the women, he's like, and there's all these like hot women, because it was all models and stuff like that. They were all on the set that day and they were taking a break, like sitting by the trailer, like eating lunch or whatever. And he's like, I said, this just goes to show like how women, even good-looking women, like perceive themselves. They're like, so the guy on the crew like leans out of the trailer and calls for his dog. He's like, "Hey, Pig!" And every single woman at that table turned around like he was talking to them.
That's funny.
And I was like, yeah, that's about right.
There's also a lot of nudity in this movie. It kind of lingers on it. But
not sexual nudity, though. It's kind of like, it's more like artistic nudity. Yeah, that doesn't sound too stupid.
They're so scrawny, it's not erotic anyway.
Because really, I mean, the only time that you see the nudity is when they're doing the body scans.
Well, no, there's also pictures in the background of them, huge pictures of them, that they have hung up on the walls. It's just, there's a lot of it.
I think that's why this ended up, at first it got an R rating, but then I think like the MPA like reconsidered and just gave it a PG. They didn't have the PG-13 rating in 1981 because the nudity is not sexual in any way. Not really. It's just kind of like...
It's like, all right.
There. Or it's, like I said, it's almost like more artistically done. It's not really like meant to titillate or anything like that. And
that's what you want to call it.
Well, I can't really think of a better word.
Clinical to me.
Yeah, well, maybe clinical is a better word. I was going to say medical, but that's kind of a similar kind of thing. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is kind of a little bit of a forgotten flick. If you're into Michael Crichton and if you're into these types of like sci-fi movies, and you can deal with something that came out in 1981, so obviously the computers and stuff like that is not going to be anything like and I was going to say earlier that Michael Crichton was laughing because he's like, how in the movie he's like, it was a big deal, like it was very futuristic to have like a key card, like to swipe, like to open a door,
futuristic
and
shit
he's like, so they had like kind of a lingering shot on it. He's like, obviously you wouldn't do that nowadays because those fucking things are everywhere, and it's not it's not a big deal. Like, it's not high tech anymore.
I remember seeing this, back in the day. This seemed to be a very high tech movie.
Yeah.
But you look at it now, and you're like, huh? But the funny thing about the movie is that every interior location is some kind of set.
Pretty much,
that went out of its way to be kind of extravagant and exotic looking. You look at it now, it just looks like an 80s mall.
Yeah. I think everything was built to the set. Like the models' apartments.
The models' apartments, the studios, the corporate places, the corporate headquarters, and everything is some kind of set. Only the exterior shots wasn't a set.
Yeah.
And it was exotic in the day. But you look at it now, and it looks like I said, it looks like a tired old used malls and abandoned hotels.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like now.
I think the only time that it was kind of, and it's not that bad, but the one scene where Albert Finney and Susan Day they're kind of hiding out, I guess. So they're like in that beach house and they're kind of talking in front of that big like bay window or whatever, this beach, and this like the ocean is in the background. To me, that looks like green screen.
Yeah, it was.
Not super obviously, but you can tell that that's not really back there.
When she fell out that window, in the background, you could tell the skyline, looking out her back apartment or window from the shot, and everything was just a damn backdrop.
Yeah, he said earlier they were cloth backdrops a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like outside of the windows and stuff.
Yep.
It's like it didn't really occur to me until I was watching it again and then saw that beach house. The beach house scene, I guess because it was bright daylight, so nighttime it doesn't stand up as much.
Yeah, and back in the 80s, all these apartments and all these houses and shit, everywhere you went, there was an entire full bar and big old fucking wine racks and shit with fucking hundreds of glasses, and you're like, how many people is this fucking gonna have over in his house? You don't know. You don't know her life. He's ready to serve like 40 fucking people.
I feel like that happened a lot, like in movies back in the day.
Who's coming over?
Everybody had like a whole fucking liquor store, like in the side of their living room.
I remember that fucking Boomer Bling,
I'm like, that must be nice.
It's Boomer Bling.
I mean, we drink a lot, like comparatively, but it's like even we only have like maybe three or four bottles, in the living room at a time. It's like I don't have
having a bunch of booze in your house for the Boomers was kind of like a sign of damn wealth. Especially, I think it actually came from their parents coming back from the war, from World War II.
Yeah.
So having these big bars in your house meant that you were successful and you had a bunch of friends who were going to come over, and all your corporate friends are going to come around.
Yeah, because
I don't know why the fuck they want to go over to your house and drink.
Yeah.
Kind of like they don't have bars and don't have clubs and shit.
Well, and everybody, if anybody watches Mad Men, which is like all the fucking corporate advertising offices where every fucking office had a huge full bar in it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that'd have been cool. Now, I did used to work at a company that, they sold vodka. It was a vodka distribution company. So they did actually have a full bar in the office. So that was like really nice. And sometimes when they got a new flavor and somebody mixed a new cocktail, we get to like try it out like on Friday afternoon.
Those days are over. Days are over, man. These corporate jobs now, they have pajama day and shit. They're fucking sitting around fucking with stuffed animals and playing.
That sounds nice.
Playing with fucking coloring books and shit. You know what I mean?
That sounds nice. If they could do that with booze and cookies, then that would be like the perfect work day.
No, they would never do that. Lawsuits.
Well, yeah, that's true. Somebody would fucking fall out the window.
The modern world is soy as fuck.
But yeah, so anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, okay. So, like I said, if you're into Michael Crichton, if you're into this era of sci-fi thrillers, like I said, this is kind of cool, like, in the way that builds up the mystery and stuff like that. It's a little bit slow, but, I thought it was kind of intriguing.
I want to buy an old Fiero. I've been lusted over the Fieros. Something about all this 80s shit you're showing me. I saw somebody rebuild this kid.
It's like so much I do not miss
fucking 84 Fiero, and I'm going like, yeah, this fucker's catch fire. I want one.
Okay.
You can get it for like $1,000.
Well, you start saving your little pennies and
Save
get one.
Pennies, I don't want to fuck with a Fiero, man. I'm sick.
What, you changed your mind just in like 2 seconds?
Because I realized I gotta be fixing shit, man. I'm sick of fixing shit.
I thought that was like
pulling motors and rebuilding motors and fucking fixing shit, and then
you still got that motorcycle you're there.
Yeah, I got all kinds. I know. I haven't even finished the motorcycles. Yeah, it was just bringing it up. It's relevant. It was from early '80s.
Early 80s. Yeah.
Early 80s. Yeah.
Because you've been talking about like maybe getting some of those cabinet video games and stuff too.
Yeah, from the 80s.
Which I think I would get more enjoyment out of that because I don't really give a shit about cars, but it's like...
I don't know, man. You look at some of those old video games that entertained you back then and then you try to play them now and you're like, what the fuck was that?
Well, I probably suck at them now anyway because my fucking reflexes are shot nowadays.
Only one I'm having fun with is like, what's it? Shinobi.
Yeah.
Shinobi, yeah. That was pretty fun.
I wouldn't mind having like Joust or something again.
It's on. I have it.
Or Dig Dug.
I have them.
Yeah, I thought you did. I thought you had it on your
Xbox One.
He's got like all the
and you get bored with them real quick. I got the whole Williams arcade.
Yeah.
I bought it for $20.
I guess it's funny. Back in the old days, I used to go to the fucking convenience store next to my grandma's house, and I would play Joust for like 2 hours.
It's because it was in that cabinet, it had the big buttons, and it was in front of you, and it was all lit up.
Yeah.
And you were in an arcade filled with other ones.
And you didn't have anything better to do.
And you didn't have anything better to do. And the whole arcade was filled with that shit, and you were 14.
True.
You know what I mean? And you're oh yeah. You know, and there was something mysterious to it because you didn't know how video games ended.
Yeah.
You thought maybe if you played them long enough, something special would happen, like aliens would come down like out of the last Starfighter and give you a job. Remember that? You never knew what would happen.
Or something bad would happen, like the Bishop of Battle.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a deep cut. Do you guys remember that one?
I remember that.
That was an anthology horror movie, horror sci-fi, something like that. I think it was called Nightmares. I remember Emilio Estevez being in it. And the Bishop of Battle was pretty much the only story that anybody remembers from it. And it was kind of like that. It was like a video game, and it was like a 3D wireframe guy who looked kind of like Destro from G.I. Joe. And he was like talking to dudes like evil and shit. I'm going to look for that on fucking YouTube. I haven't seen that in a million years. I saw it like so many times back in the 80s. And I love anthologies.
All right.
But we'll have to review that one if we can find it. But yeah, so go check out Looker from 1981 by Michael Crichton. You know, if you want to, go right ahead.